I've only been concussed once from a horse that I can remember, right? Funny pun, because I don't remember. And this is when I was back in Oxfordshire, so this was probably a good 8 years ago now. And I remember being sat on this young 4-year-old thoroughbred filly. We were in the starting gates. Now, for those of you that maybe don't know what the starting gates are, or even have sat on a horse when you're in the starting gates, this is a really unique experience because you're in a really tight area. And when I mean tight, I mean you feel each sides of the barrier of the stalls against your legs. It is very, very compact. It's obviously padded. Your horse sometimes at the same time, depending on their size, the head is right between the grille, and then at the back as well, if you look behind you, there is the back end, which is also against your horse's backside. So you are in a tight enclosed area. There is this moment before they open the gates, and there's always a routine to it. So the horses are so in tune, as they always are, where they can hear, and especially if they've done this a few times, they anticipate the countdown of 4, 3, 2, 1, open, and the horses go. Now, this particular filly, where I used to work, was there for behavioural problems. So she had fear and anxiety when in the stalls themselves. So she was working with myself and the expert in behaviour at the time to help her calm down and also make it a more enjoyable experience, if it can ever be one. And the last thing I remember was her and I in the stall, and I had another guy next to me on a more experienced horse. So I was on the behavioural horse because I was a lightweight female and she was an anxious mare filly. So we did it very slowly. But the last thing I remember was my heart rate. I could hear my heart rate beating. I remember looking down and seeing my hands, which were in this bridge format as we hold the reins as jockeys, quite relaxed or loose. You can't have them tight because you need to allow the horse to jump and push with their necks. You don't want to restrict them. And I remember just feeling her front legs coming back and forth, and that was her anticipation of the stalls as well, about to open. So you could feel her shoulders underneath me, going up and down and up and down. Now, bearing in mind, we're in very small saddles, and also as jockeys, you ride with your stirrups very high up as well. So the real point of contact would have been my seat bones on the saddle. And there was this moment where I thought, just listen for the countdown. I remember putting my hand on her neck and saying, "You're okay, baby, you're okay, we've got this." And the next thing I remember was the guy next to me holding my horse in the middle of the field, saying, "Are you okay?" Just shouting, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was in such a daze. I was like, I couldn't see properly. My head was so fuzzy. Everything was blurry. And I remember, obviously I must have been shaking my head or trying to reorientate myself with where I was. And I was still on this filly's back. She was obviously at a halt, at a standstill, and the guy next to me had hold of her by the rein, so by the rein closest to him. And he was just shouting, "Nika, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I felt like a few seconds, but the guy told me it was up to about 2, even 3 minutes before I came around and realized I'm still on the horse. What on earth happened? And then I got told the story of what happened because I was concussed and don't remember. What happened was, in the starting gates, when the countdown happened, my wonderful filly that I was on anticipated what was going on. So as soon as they said open, instead of just pushing herself out and going forward, she leapt in the stalls. Now, bearing in mind, this is the small, compact, very tight-knit area. There's only one place to go. And as she came out and fly leaped out, my head hit the top of the bar of the stalls. And that obviously concussed me completely. How, to this day, I stayed on, no idea. Must have been my guardian angels. At the same time, so grateful for this filly that she could have easily kept going until I came off. And who knows what might have happened. Or something, just something more dramatic could have happened. So I'm still grateful to this day for this wonderful filly that she looked after me. She actually stopped. And I know from her perspective, for me, there is absolutely no malice or form of disappointment from her. It was purely an experience that I can talk to you and share with you today. Now, I was wearing a helmet, so I had protection on, a body helmet, a body vest, things like that. But since doing and reminiscing over the story, now working with elite equestrian females, recognizing that how many of us get checked out after we've had these falls, because not all of us are concussed, but when you look into the research, there's these things called sub-concussions, and these are these little falls that we always have, right? Come on, you're an equestrian female, how many times have you fallen off? I can count more than 2 hands, okay? Silly falls, like just silly falls that have happened over time that you just get up, brush yourself off and keep going. And even in those cases like where I was concussed, why did I not go to hospital? Why is this as an equestrian sport that we don't take these sub-concussions, but even the concussive falls more seriously? And I'm going to share with you some key things that you can do to protect your brain and to protect your body from these concussive falls. Here are 3 things you can do to protect your brain as an equestrian female. Things I really wish someone had told me when I started my riding career. But you know what, ladies, it's never too late. So please share this with as many equestrians as you can, because more women should know about this. Number 1 is actually your neck strength. So a lot of the research that has been done on brain health and protecting our brains, especially from being concussed or sub-concussed, is actually recognizing that women have a weaker neck, a shorter neck compared to most men. Unfortunately, like most things in life, with the research done on other sports and equestrian sports, it's very much based on men. So the structure of the neck and the effect that can have when they have a fall or high impact sports on their brain. And as women, the biggest thing we can do as equestrian sports people is actually train our neck muscles. So develop a stronger neck so that we can prepare our body for that fall inevitably happening. Now, whether it's something that you do become concussed from, hopefully not, but even those seemingly insignificant subconcussive falls, the key thing you can do is actually strengthen your neck. Second thing you can do is actually look into protecting your brain. Now, I did not know this because I very innocently and naively thought that as equestrian females, when we wear a helmet, I've always been told that if you've had a couple of falls, to replace your helmet, just because of the impact that has on the ground and the impact that has on the structure within the helmet. So to replace your helmet at least every other fall that you've had, or maybe every 2 falls, which as an equestrian, if you're sat there rolling your eyes going, well, that will just be too expensive, maybe when I share with you more about the impact of having these seemingly insignificant falls can have later on in life, you might just reconsider just getting that new and improved helmet. So I thought that these equestrian helmets actually protect our brain. When you look into the research, and you also have to look across sports, because not that much has been done on the equestrian sport as females, you recognize that these helmets actually don't protect our brain. Now, if you're sat there going, what does being concussed actually mean? What happens is when your head hits the ground, or you fall off the horse, or sometimes if you've ever been hit in the face by a horse, you will feel this almost lightheadedness, and what happens is your brain shakes in between your skull. Now, depending on the severity of the shake, that can actually cause some brain cells to get damaged and die, so they don't function at all. Now, the difference between the subconcussive falls is when you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you're not concussed, you knew exactly what happened, so it would just be like a minor shake of the brain. The helmets that are currently out there don't really protect that shake of the brain. They protect your skull from a less impact, obviously, and maybe opening your head up if you hit a rock or something like that. But looking into the research, there's actually a specific type of headband that you can buy, I know, you're ready for this, to protect your brain. Now, why don't more riders have this? why don't more equestrians, all of us, should have one of these headbands? Now, I've been doing some research into this, so I'll put the link below into the ones I found, that once you wear this headband, you're actually protecting your brain cells from a fall potentially happening. The third thing I'm going to share with you is, if you've ever had a concussive fall, ask yourself, if you don't remember, but if you are tracking your menstrual cycle, and if you're not, please start doing that. That is like one of the most non-negotiable things we should be doing if we still have a menstrual cycle. When you know when you had the fall and link that into your menstrual cycle, there is research to show that if you had the fall and were concussed in the latter phase of your cycle, so when progesterone is higher, there could be a more significant effect on your brain compared to when you were in the earlier phase of your cycle when estrogen is more dominant. Now, this is still very early research, and more research needs to be done in the relationship to women, hormones, menstrual cycle, and them having these concussive falls. But if you're sat there thinking, gosh, you know what, I feel like, especially now towards the end of my menstrual cycle, going into my perimenopausal, even if you're past that stage and you're in the postmenopausal, but you're feeling like the cognitive function is a bit slower, your thinking is a bit different, brain fog is there, anxiety is through the roof, it might be worth looking back at your falls and understanding, okay, this fall happened then, and was there a link to where I was on my menstrual cycle? More and more research will be done, and I will always share as much as I know, because I truly believe more equestrian females should know about this. As a little bonus on this video today, I'm going to share with you 2 other tips that all equestrian women should be doing. Number 1 is recovery. So many of us don't even know when our period is happening, not to mention the link between how we should be living our life, so that means how we train, how we eat, how we rehydrate in relation to our hormones. Ladies, when you know this, it is a total game changer. You will actually thrive so much better, and your performance as an athlete will triple, will supersede what you're currently doing when you link this into your cycle. So on the downtimes, and by this I mean recovering from a competition, or recovering because you're in the latter phase of your cycle and progesterone is high and you need to rebalance, this is so important for our hormonal health, but also our nervous system regulation. Key thing. And the second thing is looking into supplementation of the brain. Now, that's not obviously going to be your saving grace if you were to have a concussive fall. We really need to look at things like the neck strength, and also those bands that I spoke about, and changing your helmet. Those come really key of the lists. However, taking some form of supplementation, magnesium in women is fundamental, especially if you're in the 30s, going into your 40s. And then the other thing is taking some omega-3s. Now, I really don't recommend supplements off the bat, because I truly believe that once you have a good foundation of your nutrition in relation to your lifestyle and hormonal age, if there are still symptoms presenting themselves, to then obviously take additional supplementation. Now, if I've made you rethink how you've treated your brain and your body after a fall, you're not alone. DM me the word brain and I will send you a checklist of my top rider brain recovery tips. And please comment below if you've ever had a fall, been concussed, or noticed that you've had a few of these sub-concussion falls. Let's talk as an equestrian community, especially to my females. We need to stop this narrative of we'll be fine.